This is a brief tutorial on entering climate data into the free version of WUFI Passive. If you have the free version of WUFI Passive, you'll notice that you're not able to select or import an external climate data file. However, you are still able to import manually the different information for the climate data file. So you can still model in different climates other than the standard data set, but it must be entered manually. In order to enter this, you should first find the Excel file for your location. This can be found on the PHIUS website under Member Resources, or if you're certifying a project, contact PHIUS and they will provide you with the climate data set needed. This is what the climate data set will look like in the Excel file. We have metric and US here. So what you see here is you need the ambient temperature, dew point, sky temperature, and you leave the ground temperature blank. So what you will do here is enter the ambient temperature one by one across the top, copy and paste, or type it in however you'd like. One by one, the ambient temperature comes from this top row. The dew point temperature comes from this row down here. Dew point. Copy this. Again, one by one. The sky temperature comes from the row below the dew point. Copy, paste one by one. And then again, leave the ground temperature blank. WUFI Passive will calculate its own ground temperature. That is not given in the climate data set. Below this, you can see there's solar radiation for the north, east, south, and west, and then also global. This will come from here, north, east, south, and west, and then global beneath that. And just in general, this is the different layout, or this is the layout of the data set. There's January, February, March, April, May across the top. So the 12 months across the top, and then the different parameters below. So you would copy radiation data, for example, north, January here, like so. Okay, so then after you've entered all of the monthly data, you need to go over to the right in your Excel file and see the different load conditions. So now we have the radiation data and ambient temperatures for the load conditions, 2 for the heating load and 1 for the cooling load. That will go over to the right here. So heating 1, 2, and cooling 1. The ambient temperature, again, is the top row here. So you'll copy over the different data, and then you will skip the dew point and sky temperature. You see you do not have dew point and sky temperature for the load conditions here, although there are cells for them. Ignore them. Come down to the radiation and start copying the radiation data below. Again, this is the north radiation data here, and then it goes in the same order. Here, east, south, and west, and then you have global radiation, and you just copy all of these across. When it is finished, you will almost have this completely filled out. All of these will be filled out except for the ground row, January through December, except for ground. For the load conditions, this is what the top will look like, almost empty. But the bottom, the solar radiation, should be filled out for heating 1, 2, and cooling 1. So all of these cells. So let's see, if we imported a climate data set, this is how it will look when it is complete. This is a brief tutorial on the source energy and CO2 factor entries in WUFI Passive. In WUFI Passive, under your localization and climate branch, you will see there's a tab for source energy and CO2 factor. The PHIUS Plus 2015 standard for source energy, or for total energy for the building, is based on source energy rather than site energy. That means that there's a source energy factor for each different fuel type that is used. You can see here the most common uses of fuel is natural gas and electricity. The electricity mix does change per location. So you can see Italy is different than Germany and the US. It's also different for Canada, that it's not built in yet. If you're certifying a project to PHIUS Plus 2015, you will always use the US factor. Moving forward for PHIUS Plus 2018, there will be country-specific source energy factors. So the US will likely change from 3.16, but for example, Canada will have a lower source energy factor. And in order to define this, you will go into user defined, and you can change the different source energy factor for the different mixes of fuel types. So I could put in 2 for electricity and 1.1 again for natural gas, and then fill in these different parameters and use a user-defined location, or again I could use USA.